Lately, a lot of people have been asking me this one question. How do you take your photos? I've been wanting to make this video for quite a while where I show my workflow for taking pictures from the drawing board to the final edit. And having a lot of friends in school and some comments asking for it, I've decided to make that right now. And because I have literally run out of ideas on what to film, so yeah, let's just get started. Being inspired is often seen as an important trigger when it comes to art, photography included. Before or while I take pictures, I always take some time to discover new ideas to help me decide what to take pictures of and how. And this can come from anywhere, from following photographers on Instagram, seeking through Pinterest, or it can come from just looking around yourself for anything interesting. Architecture, nature, colors, anything. But this is not to say that you should wait for inspiration before you create. Waiting for inspiration and only starting once it arrives can be a waste of time. And if I were to only pick up a camera when inspiration hits, I might as well just sit and wait for a very long time, a mistake that I often make as well. Like, I find inspiration once I have decided to take pictures and I already have a schedule for it. Then I may look for ideas. In fact, oftentimes my inspiration actually hits once I'm out there taking pictures. As the iconic French painter Henri Matisse once said, "Don't wait for inspiration, it comes while one is working." I've had the privilege of trying out numerous cameras and camera gear in my life, but my go-to setup remains the same for the past 4 years. I've been using this Sony a6400 for nearly all of my photos and videos up until the end of last year. This actually belongs to my mom, but since I use it a lot more often than her, so mine. It has relatively quick autofocus, takes really amazing quality images from its 24 megapixel APS-C sensor, and it's very compact and lightweight, making it very easy to carry around. Additionally, it can record 4K videos up to 30 FPS, making it a good camera for my videos as well. And this camera has been through a lot, like sand, dust, rain, water splashes, but unlike my sanity, it is still surviving. I probably shouldn't be saying this when my mom is watching. And to pair with it, I always use the Sigma 18 to 50mm f2.8 DC-DN Contemporary. Like, if I could have only one lens for the rest of my photographer life, it would be this. This right over here is the jack of all trades among my lenses. It covers all of the focal lengths I need from 18mm for wide shots and close-ups with 50mm. And with a constant f2.8 aperture, allows for a shallow depth of field and great subject separation with a creamy background blur, and really decent low-light performance. It's also extremely compact in terms of size and weight, making carrying this lens very easy. And this costs way less than the equivalent Sony G lenses, causing less damage to this. I mean, it's already thin anyway, so it's not much of any use. I also use a Hoya circular polarizer filter, which helps reduce reflections and glare, which is very helpful if I'm taking pictures of cars, for example. And alongside that, I really like to use the K&F Nano K 1/4 and 1/8 black mist filters, which diffuse the highlights, creating this halation, glowing, dreamy effect, which I personally love. It's just a visual effect and a personal preference really, it's not that necessary. And batteries. Bring a lot of batteries, because just like my self-esteem, the batteries are very short-lived. I do also have other cameras, lenses, and pieces of gear at my disposal, but this remains as my main setup for nearly all my photos. The thing is, you really do not need the latest or the most expensive camera gear to take great images. Like, this camera may not be as good as the Sony full-frame cameras, which my wallet is unable to accommodate, but I am still very satisfied with the results regardless. As the saying goes, the best camera is the one you have with you. And finally, we arrive on the day of the shoot. Now, as a demonstration for today's video, I am going to be taking pictures of this 1960 Mini Cooper, a car that is very adorable and, unlike me, has aged very beautifully and has a lot of stunning details as well, making this the perfect subject for my photos. Now, although I'm going to be taking pictures of a car for today's video, I use the exact same workflow approach for pretty much everything else, whether that be street photography, nature, landscape photography, shenanigans with the boys. Anyways, for my camera settings, I mainly shoot on aperture priority with auto ISO, just so I can focus on adjusting the aperture, which I set wide open at f2.8 for that shallow depth of field. Or I also sometimes use manual mode, so I can additionally adjust the shutter speed, which I set at least 1/60, or 1 over 100 ideally, just to minimize the vibrations and shakiness of my images, especially when shooting handheld. Just like doing sports, I always try to warm up when starting a photography session because it does take quite some time for you to get used to your surroundings. So I would like to spend the first few minutes just taking some of the basic images, familiarizing myself with the subject and the environment. So in this case, I would like to start off with the basic angles of the car, with the front recorder, side profile, rear recorder, and rear angles of the car, just to get myself into the zone, if you know what I mean. And once I'm already in the zone, that's when I can start being a little bit more creative. Maybe going for the detail shots, taking pictures of the wheels, the headlights, details in the bodywork, parts of the interior, and trying out a variety of different angles. I like to believe that there aren't any strict rules when it comes to taking photos, just like art in general. Sure, there will be some basic guidelines like what do we have? Leading lines, rule of thirds, framing, negative space, and all that, just to help you understand the basics. But once you're already familiar with the basics and you start bending the rules a bit, that's when you can really get creative and you can get some really unique shots. And also, one last thing, and probably the most important thing, is just have fun. I mean, come on, it's a beautiful day, got a beautiful car, I'm doing what I love most. Just enjoy it. And we're now into what I consider the most satisfying part, because this is where I see the photos I took really take shape. I usually edit my photos on Adobe Lightroom, and how I edit my photos, and I know some of you may hate me for this, is that I use presets. No, let me explain. I know some see using presets as taking a shortcut and making your photos less authentic, and some people may not even consider it as editing. But I do not treat presets as a one-click solution. It's just to streamline your workflow. You can't just apply the same preset to every other image and expect them to look just as good. I would make adjustments to the lighting tab to fix the exposure, making sure that some details are properly exposed, and I really like to give my images a more warm, cozy look, so sometimes I would increase the temperature slightly and also color grade for the orange and teal look by pushing the shadows into the blues and the highlights into the oranges. And also making the greenery less green? I don't know, I just think it looks better. Everything else I just adjust according to my own liking, maybe adding the haze to fix the contrast, and then I also add masks to my image. Usually my go-to is just increasing the contrast of the background just so the subject stands out slightly more. Once I repeat the same process for all the other images for the next 5 or so hours, I have no life, I know, I can finally share these images online or send it to anyone involved, in this case, the owner of those cars. Just a little disclaimer, I would suggest you to not take this video as a step-by-step tutorial and more of just me showing you how I do things, because I am by no means a professional. In fact, I kind of suck. You may use this video, however, as a reference for your own workflow in case you're looking to do photography as a hobby, maybe. Besides, it's all about finding your own style. If there was a fixed answer on how to take pictures, then everyone's photos will look exactly the same, which is not the case. Just remember to keep learning and improving in whatever it is you're doing. And with the knowledge so easily accessible, you're bound to create something captivating sooner or later. As the saying goes, no matter how good you are, you can always do better. See you next time.